President Joe Biden was warmly embraced by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday as he made a high-stakes wartime visit to demonstrate U.S. solidarity after the brutal October 7th attacks by Hamas militants on Israeli civilians. But the explosion that killed hundreds of Palestinians Tuesday night at a Gaza hospital thwarted any such embrace from Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas or Jordan's King Abdullah, who canceled their planned meetings with Biden. Both Israel and Hamas deny they are responsible for the hospital blast. In Israel, Biden persuaded Netanyahu to allow international humanitarian aid in to help Gaza's 2.2 million residents, who are in desperate need of food, water, and fuel, saying he hoped crossings will begin Friday.
Israel agreed the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza.
Protesters took to the streets in Istanbul and many other cities across the world Wednesday and Thursday in support of Palestinians and against Israeli attacks on Gaza. Some protesters also expressed outrage at the United States for backing Israel, despite intensive shuttle diplomacy by Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who met with Arab leaders across the region. While Blinken and Biden were visiting the Middle East, Russian President Vladimir Putin was welcomed to Beijing by Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Addressing the Israel-Hamas conflict, Putin said that the growing number of world conflicts strengthens ties between Moscow and Beijing. Russia and China have refused to condemn the Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians. One expert told VOA this crisis has shown that the U.S. is now the only superpower in the Middle East.
It is the only superpower that has real military assets, and that's not just assets that it's going to give to Israel in the conflict. It's the 2 aircraft carriers in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's the security relationships with Jordan, with Egypt, with Saudi Arabia, with surrounding countries, and it is the diplomatic bandwidth to do the kind of conversations and activities that you've seen Secretary Blinken and the president engage in.
Russia and China are working together to upend the global order established after the Second World War. Former Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger told VOA.
And now that she is hosting Vladimir Putin in Beijing, it's a continuation of this deepening partnership to try to drive chaos in Europe, to drive chaos in the Middle East, to eventually try to drive chaos right in China's front yard.
But another expert told VOA that, unlike Russia, China's interests in the Middle East may be more in line with America's.
I think China's interest in the Middle East is not for more war and instability, because they're even more dependent on the energy resources of the region.
Katula said that the decision by Palestinian and Egyptian leaders not to meet with Biden so soon after the hospital explosion is not necessarily a sign they are not willing to work with the United States, but that they are sensitive to the reactions on their own streets. Cindy Sain, VOA News.